The contents of this interview, or from Awake and Empowered Expo LLC from Ethann Fox and Flower of Life Center for Human Evolution, is for informational purposes only and does not necessarily reflect the viewpoints held by these organizations or individuals. Always consult with your doctor or health professional before making any changes to your diet, lifestyle, or prescription drug use. Please understand that you assume all responsibility and risk for the use or misuse of this information.
Hi, Ken. Thank you for joining me for Awake and Empowered Radio today. It's a pleasure to be speaking with you and to have you as a presenter at our upcoming Expo this April. Now, you are the PR director of Evolved Ministries, Evolved University. Is that right?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay, and you'll be presenting a lecture on behalf of Evolved Ministry on the subject of self-mastery, psychokinesis, and telekinesis. Now, before we get into that too in depth, I'd like to discuss and I'd like to get into discussing that lecture also in more detail later. But to start, I'd like to know more about your life journey, any significant life-changing experiences you've had, and ultimately what moved you in the direction of joining Evolved Ministry and developing these extraordinary abilities.
Wow, that could be that's a loaded question because that could go on for quite some time. But yeah, I definitely, my life has been, I would say, ever planning me for this moment in time. Just a brief overview of my earlier childhood. I grew up, full Pentecostal Christian, charismatic. My parents, pretty much were deacons in this church and grew up in that program, and always questioned it, as far as all the dogmatic and all the fear-based stuff. I just always knew that stuff was a little off and not quite right, but definitely had some amazing experiences in that. That showed me that there was an aspect of that was true as far as energy or healings that could have taken place. I happened to be part of some healings that took place and traveled to Mexico on some mission trips when I was in my teens, and had some experiences. So I knew that there was something to this, but I knew that they had kind of had on the wrong, there was kind of a enslavement, keep you down, keep you in fear and judgment, and keep you controlled. So, but I would definitely say that my childhood, that kind of prepared me for kind of diving in what I dived into. But yeah, I got out of that whole program when I was in my late teens and kind of just went out into, normal life. Really didn't, kind of broke free from the program and just wanted to see what the real world was about without all that overshadowing. And so it was pretty normal up to a certain point, but I would say about 5 or 6 years ago, I really started getting back into researching and figuring out what really was going on. Because when I had left the church and all that, I had really done research in a lot of the religions and realized, everything was kind of on the same stream, that they were all really based in the same thing. And so I knew that was kind of a control mechanism. And just started doing research, and it was kind of a slow process. And about a year ago, I really decided to take kind of just a real aggressive stance on, spirituality, what we were actually living in and what my theories were, what my ideas that I had, come about in all the last 15 years, and was just really trying to nail it all down, and started spending lots and lots of time meditating. And I was, meditating up to like 2.5 hours a day, just, in a ridiculous amount, and getting into these heightened states of consciousness and getting what I would call downloads and information. And it was an amazing time and experience, and it kept getting more intense and more intensified. And started noticing that certain things were happening, that certain things were activating in me that I had really hadn't experienced before. And I end up having an extremely powerful, I guess what you could only call as an energy blast this past May. And yeah, let's just say that it was a wild experience. I had meditated in the morning, and I had just come out of the meditation, and I was standing in the kitchen of my girlfriend's house, and I was looking at something online on my phone, or just kind of getting back to it, and I all of a sudden looked at my screen and noticed that it looked funny, like it just wasn't looking right, and I'd almost seen like an aura around my phone, and I kind of looked up and looked around and was like, okay, everything's kind of looking weird, everything's kind of looking strange now, and I felt my crown chakra light up. I mean, it was a valid ring of energy around the top of my head. And I had this sense to go into the master bedroom. So I went to the master bedroom and sat on the edge of bed, and I pretty much said, this is what I've been asking for. I was pretty much calling in and bringing in that I wanted, the full activation. I wanted what I was seeking to activate all my glands and all my chakras, and turn everything on and open my third eye. And I had been working on that stuff and really developing my energy system, and so I was just, okay, I'm ready if this was it. And I just felt like I needed to go outside, so I opened the slider and walked out onto the deck, and there was a chair just sitting in the middle of the deck. And so I sat down on the chair, and still had that energy feeling around the top of my head, and got into some meditative breaths and into breathing techniques, and I saw the word love in my mind. My eyes were closed, and the moment I saw that word love, a massive blast of energy went into my body, and it was so powerful that I opened my eyes and I looked at my hands, and I couldn't really see. It looked like I was blurry, or I was coming apart, and the surge was so overwhelming that I got nervous. I stood up. There was like a reaction. It's like that reptilian, the flight, fight, or freeze mechanism. And I got up off the deck and was like, wow. Tried to walk back into the house. Everything was distorted. I couldn't make reason. I couldn't hardly walk. My body felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. It was just still surging. I stumbled, made it through the slider, ended up on the floor. Couldn't move, was completely paralyzed at that point. It was surprising that how much your ego mind comes in when your autopilot system, because when that happened, even knowing what I know, and as I was developing about my ego, and it still came in so loud at that point, that I needed to call 911. That, like I said, I was like in a paralyzed sense, and I struggled to get one of my arms free. And it was funny that had kicked in, but I just, rode with it, breathed through the energy, accepted that this was, the activation that I was, looking for. Probably about 15 or 20 minutes went by. I ended up crawling out of the bedroom because I couldn't really walk once I was somewhat movable, and ended up laying with the dog. There was this great German Shepherd that was my girlfriend's, and I ended up just laying with the dog for like 30 minutes, and that ended up calming. The energy started to calm after some time, and I ended up getting up and looking at the mirror in the bathroom, and my eyes were, they were huge, all black, fully dilated. I could see energy. It was an interesting day, for sure. I ended up going to the beach and meditating for the rest of the day. My girlfriend showed up, and she drove me down there, and ended up having some wild, like, daydreams and lucid dream states in that meditation. So it was That was what I would say that had totally made a major shift for me. I mean, I would say that once that point happened, um, I really noticed things coming on, like, which this is just a wild thing, but after that day, like I said, I could go into story after story of those daydreams and the things that happened later that day. And but one of the very interesting things that happened that evening, which would have been, this was a Saturday, and that Sunday evening, so the next day, is that we had a storm front that came in, and I was working third shift in Holland, Michigan, which is about 35 minutes south of where I live on the east side, on the west side. And this storm front came in, and I have always been curious of weather. And I used to own a painting and construction company, and I'm always was looking at weather. And so just by habit, I'm always looking at storms that come across and weather patterns. So I see this storm coming across. All of a sudden, I notice is it's a solid band front. They usually don't break apart. And in this one, I mean, literally broke apart right in the center, right where I was at, my location on the map. It just split, and the storm split apart and came on shore, but we didn't get anything. And as I got my car and I drove south to Holland, I was still looking at the radar, and I kept showing my buddy. I went and picked him up, and we rode together, and I'm showing him, like, look at this radar. This is very weird. And we ended up stopping, and we looked up above the car, and there was literally like a giant hole in the clouds. Like, there was just this huge open area where it just looked like a big cylinder that was cut out, in a giant area of the cloud. Storm south and north of us. And it was funny because we kept stopping the car and being like, oh my God, another 15 miles, there it is again. It's always over us. And so there was just some weird things started happening, and I started messing with disappearing clouds, and started connecting in with energy, and it just kind of snowballed from there, really.
So, what do you think happened to you in that experience? I find a lot of people have awakenings that launch them into entirely new life directions. I myself had a similar thing happen to me 4 years ago that moved me from a more conventional lifestyle to the everything that I'm doing now. What do you think actually occurred in that experience?
Oh, how I explain it is that, we have these operating systems, and it was almost like I downloaded a new operating system into my structure, or, an upgrade. Like, I just would say, okay, this is the time, I have to be fully at this point, at this certain time in my life. And I just upgraded it. I mean, literally my whole life changed in one day. Like, certain things that I like to do, or certain things that I did, like I drank beer before that, have no inkling to drink any alcohol after that day, and haven't drank any ever since. No particular reason, but just completely went away. My diet changed. There was tons of things that changed. I can feel energy more. I mean, there was all these little things that churned on for me. My perception and the thoughts, that everything that had gotten up to that point in meditation all like kind of clicked into place. You know what I mean? Like, all just synced right in. And I mean, all I can think of, I mean, really, is that just a full upgrade, like just turning on my system. I mean, because after that is when I really started to play and connect with energy, and started looking online for other people that were doing what I was doing. And that's really how I came across Michael Grubb.
Have you ever heard of Alexander Golod? He's a Russian scientist who builds fiberglass pyramids.
No, I haven't.
Well, he's become really known throughout the world, really. But he started out, I believe, in Russia and Ukraine building fiberglass pyramids, and he did some research into pyramid energy and so on, and now he's contracted to build these fiberglass pyramids all over the world. And they conducted a number of experiments in them. One thing that they found was whenever a storm passes over a pyramid, it will not pass directly over the pyramid. It will not pass within about 1,000 feet of any of these fiberglass pyramids.
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds like from your story and your experience that something similar was happening to you, some kind of an energy projection that was going up from the pyramid was actually affecting that storm.
Yeah, it was affecting the grid system because, the system where that we live is a hologram, and how I explain it to people is that, my energy literally pinged the system. So there was such an influx of energy that came in, it literally disrupted the mainframe there, and so storms. I mean, we had storms for a period of, I think, about a couple weeks, that every time they'd come through Muskegon, Michigan, they would split at that point. Like there was something even from the blast that happened in the location, and then with me as well, and it still occurs to a point when I connect in with storms or the energy. There's still an energy, a massive energy signature there.
Now I know for some of the things that you guys teach, I believe you do work with making clouds appear as part of your training. Is that still the case?
Yeah, well, we like to do a lot more in storm building or cloud building. You can disappear a cloud as well as you can build it, but we do all that sort of training and storm work, for sure.
So is that something that is similar to what happened to you in that experience, or do you think that experience was something a little bit different?
I think that experience was all on its own. I mean, I don't think that experience had anything to do with, as far as intention. When we're out working with storms or disciplining clouds, we have intention, and we put energy into that intention to make that, outcome come through. What happened to me was literally a blast of energy that came in to this, plane or this matrix, and then blasted me. And then that influx of energy caused some sort of a spike in the system that caused that storm to, actively affect like that, to split it apart, to change the energy. But yeah, with intention, I mean, you can do all sorts of amazing things in your environment.
Okay, I'd like to go back to your childhood a little bit. You mentioned the whole Catholic influence, and so is it fair to assume that were your parents of a mindset similar to yours? I mean, could they understand and nurture this awareness that you had when you were even younger, or are they very different from you and your experience?
No, yeah, it wasn't a Catholic. It was actually a Pentecostal or charismatic, it's all the same thing, but it's a little different. They're the people that are the running down the aisles, speaking in tongues, all that kind of stuff. So, but my parents were very conservative, so they were definitely not, with my rebellious, what you could say. I, grew up in the church. I went to a full Christian school. I went to a boarding school because I acted out and tried to break free from the system. So everyone was trying to hold me in, as you could say, and I was just trying to break free from what they were trying to program me with, which is something that people struggle with breaking free, is the programming of religion. So I was fortunate enough that it was quite easy for me to release all that programming.
So if you were to give someone, because I come across this a lot, and even my own personal life, my family's quite a bit different from me and their viewpoints and so on, and a lot of people who are awakening have similar experiences, and I think more often than not. And so what kind of advice or anything that you might want to offer people who are finding themselves in that type of a situation and not yet having broken free of it?
You mean a situation with their family members and just like between their beliefs, or just the idea of the programming that religion instills, you mean?
Well, I'm talking about being surrounded, and not just family, but a lot of people who come to our events that we do here in Michigan tell me that their biggest challenge is that they're either married to someone, or they're in a particular household, or their family members do not understand the way that they see the world. And so they have a hard time living in that environment or relating
Yeah.
to those people, and they find it very stifling. And majority of them don't really know how to get themselves out of it.
Yeah, well, I mean, really, you can just bring awareness to the fact of what they're talking about, and I would tell people to really look at how they're acting and what they're doing, and if they're coming from a place of judgment, hostility, fear, control. If you're coming from that place, that really isn't of source. That really isn't of, I would just have them you really evaluate. I mean, it all depends on where they're at. Like if they're dealing with a person at a certain point in their journey with religion, because it's like a process that everyone has to go through. I feel like it's a step, and people are at wherever they're at in their journey. So you have to always realize that this place is pretty much a place to reflect what's going on in your unconscious and in your conscious mind. Okay. And so if you're having people that are constantly, you're arguing with, or you can't get along with, or you're fighting about your point of view or their point of view when it comes to religion or spirituality or whatever, you got to realize that that you're not based in love, that you're still based in judgment, control, hostility, fear, all of those things which aren't of love, which is really based of fear and religion. And if you just study religion and look at it, most people just blindly believe it because their grandparents did, or their parents brought them to church. It's like the common fact that if you have a child and you have them in religion for 7 years, you apparently have them programmed for the rest of their life, because 5% of data is conscious, the other 95% of data is unconscious data. And so that's what we're really feeding into the field. So your surroundings all around you, you're reflecting that programming into the field. And so I would tell people, start recognizing what they're reflecting. Start looking at, okay, am I reflecting judgment, control? What's coming back to me? Are these people mad at me? Or this person saying, hey, you, and having judgment for me? Well, that's the judgment in you being reflected. And so it can be tough, especially with family members, or if you're in a close-knit group where people are totally dogmatic and believing one way. I would just say plant seeds as well. You can just plant little seeds and have them do their own research and, look for themselves, because a lot of people are just blindly, following.
Now you're going to be doing a talk on telekinesis, pyrokinesis, and self-mastery. For those of our audience who may not be fully familiar with that terminology, can you give a little bit of a definition or explanation of what that means from your standpoint?
Well, telekinesis is the movement of an object with your mind, basically. Psychokinesis is just an overall term for all the kinesises, because you have, aerokinesis, which is wind, and you have pyrokinesis, which is fire, and you have hydrokinesis, which is water, and you have atmokinesis, which is weather control, and you have geokinesis, which is crystal or ground or earth. So that's a classification for all of those. And these are abilities that, every person, it's a true human fundamental aspect that we all have access to and can learn to develop.
What are some of the more interesting results you've had? I watched one of your videos, but I'd like to hear your experience with the use of telekinesis or any psychokinesis method in an experiment.
Oh, I've had some amazing experiences.
Well, what are some that really stand out?
Oh, the storm work, the lightning work. I had I was actually down at Evolved Ministry with Mike and the group of guys down there, Daniel Atlas and Kyle, and me and Kyle and Daniel went out and we worked on building a storm for, hours and hours and hours. And it was a clear day, and we really worked on bringing the storm in, and we brought it in, and we cracked the storm, and it was 80-mile-an-hour winds and pink lightning, and it was incredible. And I mean, talk about putting your hand up to the sky and having lightning come down where you want it to, wherever you point, and being able to maneuver the wind and increase the rain and stop the rain and do everything at will. So that was an amazing experience. But it's like a daily practice for me now. I mean, everywhere I go, I'm doing aerokinesis or connecting with the trees or the wind or solar energy. I'm kind of always in it. But I mean, it becomes so profound when you first start to realize that it's possible. And then, you have an experience like that with the storm, and it's like, what? So it's incredible. I mean, this is really, I tell people, I mean, this is what I've been looking for my entire life. I mean, this is what I knew to be true, just didn't realize, how to access it or what to do. And you really, it's all accessible through yourself. It all lies within each and every one of us. And it's an amazing, beautiful experience. And the love that is felt through the energy of connecting with the wind or connecting with fire or the water, and feeling the energy, and because it's really a communication, it's really a cooperation, that we're sharing the energy that the trees are giving off, and vice versa through our energy. So
now, do you think this is what the Native American rain dance is about, that it's working in a similar way?
yeah, I would think that they had their methods, and and some of it is can be based in rituals, which we don't do anything like that. There's no need for that. But some cultures, were prone to that. But yeah, rain dances, and a lot of Indian shamans will talk about when they go out for rain or create rain, that they'll go out and talk about what it feels like. So they'll go out to the desert, and instead of feeling the hot sun and the dry sand beneath their toes, they'll imagine that it's muddy between their toes, and they can feel the rain on their face, and really visualize and get into that, and then that will create the rain. And that is true, because the universe all operates a lot and feels like, and what something feels like, and really getting into the knowingness of how that is, and how it feels. And so that does have some valid things to it.
Now, you said that everybody has these abilities and can develop them. Have you found that really to be true in your school, that anybody can develop these same abilities to the same level in the same amount of time, or is there a difference in that learning curve for each individual?
There's going to be a difference for every individual. Certain individuals are going to excel faster than certain, and it all depends on how much pre-programmed data they have. How much their old belief systems have got them trapped in a loop of consciousness, to where maybe the self-doubt is really evident, and they're super skeptical, and they can't get over it, and they'll connect a little bit, and then it'll shut down and all turn off because their self-doubt came in. So I mean, everyone really has their own, and the school is set up in a way that it's really about wherever you're at in your level, and it's take your time and go at your own pace. So people, we have students that are excelling and are moving through the stuff fast and big results, and there's other people that are taking their time. So it really all depends. I would say that the younger people are getting it a lot quicker. And I did some touring around this summer, and the young people got it. I mean, they can just, my thought creates my reality. They can grasp onto that idea that I'm not having to blame someone else for my reality. So a lot of people are still stuck in that blame game of that it's someone else's fault, and I need someone else to save me from myself.
I've seen a video of you on YouTube where you've got I think triangular shape of aluminum foil on a stick of some kind.
Yep.
and you're moving it around with your hands. What exactly are the dynamics of that being done? Like what are you experiencing and what are you doing to cause that to happen?
Well, I'm just literally connecting in with the aluminum or the piece of paper and mentally telling it to move. Now, I also am using magnetics. So I'm using my hands and I'm sending a magnetic stream to the aluminum or to the paper and connecting with it coming out of the energy flows out of each one of your fingers and out of the palm in spirals. That's why if you look at your fingerprint's a spiral. So energy spirals out. So, I mean, the energy is coming right out of your hand. And so that's what's actually moving it. And you can move it with your mind. Now, you can use non-magnetics where you can just sit with your hands at your side and then move it with your mind, because it's all really comes from the mind. But you can use your energy and the magnetics from your hand to move it.
I'm curious from your experience and from teaching other students how to do these things. Obviously, they are abilities that require a higher level of consciousness and awareness to really use wisely, because we can't necessarily have everyone in the world with egos having these sorts of abilities and creating storms just for the heck of it or making them go away. Right. And
Yeah,
so and so it would seem to me that you these kind of abilities have to come along with a development of consciousness as well, and an awareness of the greater whole and a sensitivity to that.
for sure. Yeah. They the thing about the abilities is that they're pretty much governed by the universe. And like if you're out of check, like that's why in our teachings and why our school is so different from all or any other energy school out there is that we really teach ego. I mean, that's our first thing we get into when you join the school. Like you can't even get into techniques or anything until you pass all the ego training, because what can really happen, and what I've even seen firsthand through people that were into energy work, is that you can become out of control and that you can get into what's called a God complex. And you literally, your ego goes out of control because of the charge of energy. But you have to realize that these abilities are really merely side effects of one's true connection and true self-control of oneself and self-mastery. So you aren't going to be able to get to a level to where you could call a storm down on something or disrupt some sort of event if you're not in perfect alignment and in unconditional love in that energy. I mean, I've seen the system shut people down that were training that weren't actively in love coherence when they were connecting, and I've seen it all shut down, and I mean shut right off. So it'll share its energy, but it knows your true heart. It can, you know what I mean? It knows what's going on. Like everything is sentient, the trees and the wind, and it knows what your true heart is. So, but we really really stress ego training, and for people to work on the ego and to work on clearing out their unconscious data and aligning with love and moving out of judgment, fear, hostility, control, and starting to phase out of that, and then working with energy, because you really want to take that step to get that stuff handled, because you're going to end up in a lot more turmoil if you don't. If you take the fast route and just go for power and try to get strong and impress people and show off, or whatever your intentions are, it's not going to work out good for you. So you definitely need to go the right route. And if you're trying to get into this, if you want to be part of this because you want to make a name for yourself or you want to obtain power, well, this isn't the place for you, because this isn't what we're doing. We're teaching universal connection and based in alignment and balance and unconditional love. So
do you think that if somebody goes that route, or that they do have an issue with their ego, that these abilities will not develop, or that they'll still develop regardless?
well, they develop to a certain point and then they don't really develop anymore. So I mean, if you want like to take these to the negative polarity side, because there is that out there, and they use rituals and all sorts of other things to get their point across. But the power value is so minuscule compared to the positive. It's really nothing. They talk about black magicians and those kind of things out there, and they're on the negative stream of things. So, if somebody's going to go after it for power and they do, they're going to be under the negative end, and that really isn't powerful. So,
Do you find that unusual things happen around you when you're not even trying to do anything?
Oh yeah, lights turn off when I walk by, like street lights, or lights will turn off. Also, I mean, with energy practitioners and people that are activating their energy signatures and activating their chakras and coming online, you're going to have a greater effect on the field. And so I noticed in my life that when my energy was more chaotic, I was affecting things in a large form. So, I would go out to leave my house and there'd be traffic jams everywhere I went because my energy was chaotic. And it can really get like that. So you have to learn as energy practitioners, as you start to develop your energy, to learn to keep your energy close and not to allow it to just spill out of you. And especially if you get upset or if you get into that tone or get aggressive, oh yeah, that's why you have to keep yourself in check, because you can definitely have a negative effect on your reality, on kind of an instant basis, because you're manifesting so instantly.
Now, a lot of people in the healing field, specifically hands-on healing or Reiki or any number of those fields, which I don't imagine. Are you guys involved in healing at all, or is this just typically developing these extrasensory abilities?
No, we work on everything based on energy. So yeah, energy work, or body work, we call it. So and we teach on self-healing. So you can actually heal your own body. You don't need anyone else to actually lay hands on you to do it. And I've physically done it myself. I had a severe condition that I was going to have to have surgery for this summer, and I was able to heal myself. So yep, can be done. So yeah, we teach all that stuff.
Well, the direction I was going with that question is that a lot of people in other healing modalities have a concern about protecting themselves when they're doing a healing on somebody else, because they tend to take on a lot of the negative energy from the person that they're working on, and a lot of healers are actually worse off than the people who they're healing because they're unsuccessful in doing that. And now, do you find that what you teach, that there is a need to protect yourself? And if so, what kind of techniques do you teach? Or just, at least what you can explain very quickly in terms of the ability to do that?
Well, they're definitely, if you're empathic, you're going to pick up those things. And if you're sharing energy with someone and the way you're healing it, if you're doing it in the wrong method, you're going to be picking up all their stuff. But yeah, you definitely need to protect yourself. There's visualization with shield techniques, wrapping yourself, also cutting the cords, because your aura field, when you get into someone else's field like that, your aura is going to be kind of clinging on, and you're going to have these cords as you leave. So learning how to cut the cords, that's one thing that we will teach. But with that work, you have to know, like, it's a lot of people have issues with that, and it's all about how they're, because you're not healing, you're just they're healing themselves. You're just there to kind of help facilitate that for them. The problem that a lot of practitioners get into is that they're dumping their energy or putting their energy, which is giving them a direct connection to it. And then if they're not strong enough and their energy field isn't their own, and they don't have the protection in place, the barrier up, and intention on that there's no transfer, they're so susceptible because they're in that energy feeling and they're like trying to feel it. And most energy practitioners are Reiki people, and so that they absorb it. Because they're absorbing. So you have to learn that no absorption, and there's a different technique and a way of doing it. But yeah, it's they're kind of in a tough situation with that. So yeah, there's a better way to go about it.
Are you familiar with Graham Hancock? the archaeologist?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, he was known for a lot of the research he's done over the years with ancient civilizations and so on. And in more recent years, he went to South America and had a shaman administer ayahuasca. And in that experience, he connected with other dimensions and came back a changed person and started writing fiction books, where prior to that, everything that he wrote was nonfiction and based on the research that he'd done in ancient cities and so on. So now my question for you is that do you find that the use of certain substances that ayahuasca and DMT and so on for the purpose really is beneficial for the purpose of opening someone to alternate dimensions, or do you think and see, my theory or my perspective is those things are fine if it's administered by a professional or a shaman in a very controlled environment. And but do you find that there's any benefit to that in developing your abilities?
No, I wouldn't say that anyone has to have a particular experience to. I mean, people have definitely had profound experiences and have allowed them to, really break free from their hardcore programming. I would say you don't need it, but I would tell people to be cautious. That's all. I mean, if they want to experiment, or if they want to go to a practice, or if they want to do some hallucinogenics, you know, be cautious. Don't do too much. You have to realize that when you do those kind of things, it's like you're blowing open your door. It's like the door on your mind or your third eye. You're like blowing it open when you do those sort of things. So you want to do it in a small dose, or like you said, in a controlled environment, to where you're kind of know what's expected and you have people there that can guide you through it. But yeah, I would say that, I mean, I wouldn't shy away from it. If you really are feeling like having an experience, do it. Everyone's kind of has their own journey. So, but if you're nervous about doing it or don't want to, or you don't have to. You know what I mean? I mean, I've never had a shamanic experience.
Yeah, I haven't either, but I've always wondered about that. And so, do you think that these substances, such as DMT, for example, or ayahuasca, do they simply connect your awareness to another dimension so you can communicate with that other dimension, or do they actually open up your extrasensory abilities and so on as well, or a little of both?
Yeah, it kind of opens everything up. I mean, the DMT is, it's a naturally produced substance in the mind, from the pineal gland, and that substance is really key, to energy work. And we talk about activating all your glands, and I mean, to a point in energy work, you kind of want to get to a point where you're on this all the time DMT drip. And I mean, that's at a way down the line level, but you kind of want to start activating your pineal gland and getting the crystallization off, and start to activate that part, because that, it's the spirit molecule, DMT, that's what they've called it, and it really opens yourself up to that extra sensory, to the veil slipping, to be able to see energy. And so when you do ayahuasca, or the people that do the DMT, the synthetic, they're just putting that right into their system and opening up themselves to these other dimensions that are so close, and these other planes. And then they're seeing energy and having conversations with these other entities. So, yeah, they do open things up, but, DMT is something that's natural. And as you progress and as you activate and you start to operate from your third eye perspective, to where you can open your third eye and see through your third eye, DMT is being produced when you're doing that. So DMT is important to get flowing in your mind naturally.
So, why do you think that so many people don't have access to that? Is it because of the fluoridation? Do you think so? It's a physical thing, or is it just a spiritual block that we have because of the environment we are brought up in psychologically, or just some combination of it?
I believe it's our environment and some sort of a block in our mind. From our programming, we're really, really programmed here, and especially in this society with religion and everything, we're just so programmed that all this stuff that we're talking about is, evil, that you're going to be punished for even thinking about this stuff. So, you can close yourself off there mentally, plus you're closed off environmentally with the fluoride in the water, the diet, the refined sugars. We're just filled with stuff to calcify the gland. So, there's things you can do. You can change your diet. There's things you can do. There's buzzing techniques and meditation techniques that you can do to start decalcifying your pineal gland and starting to activate that. So, there's things you can do, but, it's a little bit of both, I would say.
Do you believe that a certain kind of diet is either essential or at least helpful to heading down this road?
Yes, I would say that eating things that are more high vibrational and starting to, you know, clean up. The more you clean up your system, the better it's going to run. You got to realize that your body is a high powered, motor. And would you put, unleaded in your race car, or would you put racing fuel in your race car? You'd put racing fuel in your race car, it'd run better. So that's just kind of how I look at it. Everyone's at their own point where they're at in their diet, but I would say that, you know, having a cleaner diet, I personally, um, you know, don't think alcohol is really appropriate for energy work. It just really, and what I've gotten in meditation about it is it just really bogs that whole thing down. So
So, what about eating meats and things like that? Do you think it affects consciousness at all or inhibits these abilities, or do you think it really doesn't matter as long as they're healthier meats that are pasture fed and so on?
I think it's really all about someone's belief system. I mean, your belief system is powerful and it can really change a thing. But I think getting away from what we're doing with the meat and the kind of energy that is going out there with it, I would think eating more healthy meat would be a lot better. Some people like to go no meat or minimal meat. It's really about all your preference. I don't think it makes a huge difference when you're starting out, but I do think it gives there gets a point in time where you kind of have to start clearing things out a little bit from your diet just to be able to keep raising your vibration. But I don't think it's that big of an issue. Some people really battle with this whole thing, but um, you know it's really where everyone else is in their journey, and eventually things will just fall off, and you'll notice that as you go along, you'll just notice that things fall away. And so it's really about wherever you're at in your journey.
Tell me about Evolved Ministry. How is the school structured, and what kind of things can people learn, and how long is a typical curriculum if someone were to start to get to? Is there an endpoint or is it ongoing?
It's really ongoing as of this point. With everyone, and we're so new. We've only been up for about 6-7 months. So there's lots of master curriculum that is being written, and a lot of the students aren't even first way through the first part. But it's really go at your own pace, and it's a really good base program. And like I said, it starts out with the ego and really moves through everything, and doesn't take it too fast, and it gives you the stages. We have a bunch of great things built in to keep you on track, and there's a whole forum area, and the forums are great because there's videos on there. And what we do is we have it set up in a way that you can pretty much, you don't have to go into the university. Like, we have it broke up into where we have a forum side and then we have a university side. So the forum side is a little more inexpensive, but it still has all the really good like videos, and there's things you can learn on there without going through the university. The university just takes you a little bit deeper, and it brings you right through like sciences, and we work with the human body and a lot more techniques. So you dive a little more in, and there's actual testing on it all. Where in the forums, you don't really have testing, but there's all the videos and things on there so that you can go through there. But there's things on the forums. I mean, there's meditation, there's harmonics that we teach, mathematics, sacred geometry stuff. Like I said, we do the physics. We teach to the ego, which is physiology. We work with all the elements of history, and then hands-on engineering. We do stuff with like lucid dreaming and dream control, meditation control, energetic control over one's energy system, which I talked about before. That we do, I'm trying to think, out-of-body stuff, out-of-body experiences, astral travel, and then all telekinesis, hydrokinesis, pyrokinesis, aerokinesis, the atmokinesis, and remote viewing as well. So you can go through all that stuff, and it's really set up in a way where wherever you're at in your level, you're getting the information. And we have nutrition as well. We have a great guy, Joel from California, and he's our nutrition guy. And so we have some great stuff on for nutrition and growing, and and we're bringing on some new curriculum. So things are really growing, and it's unbelievable how much stuff is really on there. I mean, based between the forums and the university, the content is just unbelievable. And on the forums, besides all the things I mentioned, we have in the school, on the forums, we also have a little bit of all that. Plus, we have entertainment, gaming, where you can interact with other people on there and do games. So there's lots of cool stuff on there.
Now, Michael Grubb is the founder of this organization, correct?
Yep.
Okay. I interviewed him April of 2014.
Okay.
And so what is his role in the organization now? Does he play an active role in teaching, or is he primarily just building the organization?
He's primarily building curriculum. So that's what he's focused on, is teaching and building curriculum. There's a few other instructors that instruct as well and help out with the forums and teaching, but he's really writing all the technique and curriculum. And there's a few of us other that are writing curriculum like in turn with his curriculum. So kind of built all together, but that's his real role, is just writing curriculum and teaching.
So is there a physical component to any of the school's programs? Do you actually have physical classes somewhere from time to time?
Not right now. We don't. We do private lessons. So students that want to come out and meet with us and give private lessons, they can come out and meet with instructors, in Indiana, Michigan, or California. So we do that. This year we're going to be doing a retreat, I believe, sometime in the summer. So we're going to be doing a week-long retreat intensive. But eventually our goal is to have an actual property where people can always come out and train. Because there's a real benefit in like training with Mike at a facility or at a location. Because training there, he's able to engineer an environment to where he can put resistance levels on the energy and also make it so it's easier, or if it's harder. I mean, there's all sorts of resistance things you can do, especially when you train with another energy practitioner. Training with someone, I think, is really, really good for your development in this. Personally, I would say that it's bar none to train. And so that's why we're going to have a school eventually. But for right now, you can go to Mike's location in Bloomington and connect with him and do face-to-face training, which I would recommend people to do. I mean, it's way worth the trip. So
I want to go back to what we were talking about earlier about modifying the weather and so on. What about things such as chemtrails, the whole geoengineering projects that are going on? Have you found any, or have you even played around with that to see if there was any way to dissipate that?
Oh yeah, you can dissipate them for sure.
And do you think that when you're dissipating them, because obviously chembusters are supposed to do that as well. I've actually not seen one do it in person, but is it actually dissipating the chemicals, do you think, or do you think it's just simply pushing away that area, just like when you had the experience with the storm?
Well, it's really based on your intention, and so, I would say that, when I look at them, or I seem like today in Michigan, there wasn't a chemtrail in the sky today, and so, there's days if you're gonna have intention on it, I just see it as transmuting it. That I'm turning it into something that's good, and I'm dissolving it or completely removing it. I see in my mind like little tiny micros, like little of water or the dust of the metal just dissipating. You know what I mean? And people are always in fear about all this stuff, and I just don't come from a place like that. So even if there are metals and all that stuff, if anything, it's making me stronger. Um, and so I just think that we put too much of our power into someone else's hands, and getting in fear about it really isn't the place to be. So I kind of, it's really not a big deal. I mean, yeah, they're doing it and it is a big deal. People are freaking out about it, but um, we have more ability in us than we're led to believe. So, you know, they're trying to spray us. Well, whatever. You know what I mean? I just transmute them and move them away.
Yeah, well, it's interesting you'd say that, and I've looked at both sides of that conversation, and I've even learned of some experiments that have been done on mice in recent years, where, of course, a lot of the science that has come out of mainstream science has come through torturing mice. But anyway, they did this experiment where they subjected mice to radiation, thinking that it would actually make them have problems, but ultimately it actually made them stronger and more resistant to radiation
Yeah.
over a period of time. So it sounds like that's kind of what you're saying.
Yeah. It's
I'm not.
really it's really based upon your mindset. I mean, you know, we really got to get back to the fact that it's really our thoughts are creating our reality, and I mean, whatever you're thinking is going to create it into your reality. And so that if you're coming from a place of fear and you're just you're going to get sick, or you think you're going to sick, you are. But if you really have the mindset that nothing can touch you and you're untouchable, and that everything is invigorating you and making you stronger and healthier, and I mean, literally, you can change that. I mean, there's some amazing things that are going on the planet, and um, things are getting pretty wild out there. So, I mean, you can make the change.
On that note, I'm really curious about your overall perspective on things going on in the world, because I've been a student and practitioner of astrology, numerology for 21 years now, and so I can also look at things from that perspective and what's going on in the world. But we've we've really been in the midst of a major period of difficulty and also growth and expansion in the world. These in terms of consciousness in the last several years, and a lot of people who are waking up are struggling with the circumstances in the mainstream world, and a lot of the insane things that are going on in the mainstream world. All the while, I would agree with you that there are all these amazing things and awakenings and experiences that are happening underneath the surface of what the mainstream world is perceiving right now. So I'm curious what you think about what exactly is going on in the world. Why are all these difficult circumstances happening now, and where is it heading?
Well, I would say that you see all this negative stuff happening around, and you got to look at it that, like, if the vibration is changing, you're also going to have this negative side change as well. So as the vibration is raising, you happen to have this balance equation go on. So there is a vibrational raise of this consciousness, and things are coming up and things are happening, and there's a shift. Yeah, and we're in a totally a new place we have been in the cosmos, and we have the photon belt that we're in and now, and there's all these dynamic things coming into play. And so as the vibration raises, there's going to be all these negative charge offs in the system. Remember how I talked about earlier, if your energy is chaotic, the environment around you is going to be chaotic too. So a lot of the consciousness in this plane is running on really one stream of information, one stream of knowledge. And when you run on that one stream of fear, you're going to get all this stuff. And as you've noticed in the news, now I don't really watch the news, but I keep up on kind of what's going on a little bit. And you notice they've had all these little things, from the Ebola to the infighting, and it just went one after another, forgetting about the next one, trying to instill fear and disunity and all these things, because it's a balancing act. They realize the vibration is coming up, that there's all these positive things going on in the world. People's consciousness are raising. People are waking up and realizing they're enslaved and they're programmed, and they're giving their energy away to the system instead of using their energy for themselves. And all this great thing is happening. And so you're going to have this negative charge off. So I look at all this negativity going around, and to me, I look at it as a positive, that we got all this stuff going around, but this means that we're on the right track. We just need to keep working on ourselves, and the best way to change the world is to do it through yourself, to just work on you. And as you change you're that little portion in a collective consciousness, and you're going to help shift because you made the change. Then someone else makes the change, and someone else makes the change, and it raises the vibration of the collective. So, working on yourself, working on self-mastery, and focused on aligning yourself and balancing yourself in love, you're going to change the collective consciousness in a better and a more vibrational stance. So, I see it as all a balancing act, and as kind of a good thing on where we're going in the direction, because it's only going to get better. I mean, you're going to see things get worse, but that's just the charge off.
So you think that we're headed in a very positive direction as a whole? And that's an interesting perspective about the negative news really being because the establishment is trying very hard to hold on to power and control, and that's why they're trying so much harder at this time.
Oh yeah, I mean, you've just seen it with just this summer with some of the stuff, the news, and this fall with the Ebola. It just made me laugh. It was like literally comical, and they just one thing after another, just trying to keep fear. And like with this whole snowstorm that's just going on, like, oh my God, snow, like the monster blizzard. I mean, that's why there's these little old ladies that won't drive their car, because they're instilled with programming fear. They're so terrified. Some people's cultures, the older women, they don't even drive. The men just drive. And it's like they have so much fear based on it. And the news projects all that fear. I mean, when you see it for what it is, when you're kind of out of it, you laugh. It's because it's like, it's comical. It's like, what are they doing? They're just trying to and it's just getting out of hand for me. It just seems like it's like over the top on how much they try to instill the fear in everyone and worry.
And where do you see all this going in, say, the next 20, 30 years? Do you see the world being different, and how would you describe it based on where you see things right now?
Oh, that's a tough one, man. It could go anywhere from here. There's lots of parallel realities on this moment. I think we're really in a pivotal point. I would say in the next few years, whatever's going to happen is going to happen, and it's going to send us in a certain direction. I don't think we're in no way going negative. I think there's only positive. When you look at the cycles and you look at kind of where we're at with just, where this whole hologram is in this whole space dynamic and all the pulling factors with the stars and the galactic and kind of where we're at, we're only coming into this positive run. So I think it's only going to be positive. And man, hang on, because in 30 years from now, who knows? Who knows with all these technologies that are on the cusp, and I'm kind of involved in some things globally, and there's some wild stuff that's kind of in the workings. And so, I would even say the next 10 years we could have a dramatic change in how our society looks. It all depends on what happens in the next few years, but I think we're on an amazing track. So no matter which way, I think it's going to be positive, but I think it can be dramatically different quicker or take a little more time.
Now, I've talked to a lot of people who have mentioned the next few years as being pivotal in this turning point, and you also mentioned parallel realities. So, can you explain to me what exploration you've been doing into parallel realities, and why you made the statement the next few years?
Well, I would just say from things I've gotten in meditation and things I've kind of seen, I just feel like this time is a real pivotal time with just everything that's happening. And I just think that something, I don't know what it is, I can't put my finger on it, but there's something that's gonna take place, um, that's gonna do something. I think there's either gonna be like a massive awakening, or there's gonna be a shift in consciousness, or something's gonna declose, and something's gonna shift it for the masses. And I think it's just really gonna be pivotal in the upcoming. But yeah, as far as parallel realities, I mean, there's lots of ways it could go, and it's really all depends on which way we take it. And things can shift in many directions off many lines. So it's really all up to us and how much work we put in. But with all that has built in the last year or so, it's just we're coming into something. You know what I mean? You just feel that energy, that it's like, when you're coming up to like the edge.
So, in all the versions of the parallel realities that you've experienced, they all are going in a positive direction, basically.
Yes.
Now, I want to kind of go off track here, just because you brought up parallel realities, and ask you your opinion on. Now, a number of years ago, I'm sure you've heard of the book The Secret, and the whole idea of law of attraction and so on, which
Yeah.
is pretty much kind of a mainstream concept now, where when it first came out, it wasn't so much. Um, so the law of attraction, in the way that it's been taught in The Secret, and I've actually, when The Secret first came out, I went and studied under some of the teachers who are in The Secret, and learned some of the techniques that they teach and so on. But the thing that I always had a challenge understanding back then, because I also study cycles, and I think some of us are here for certain purposes, and others are here for other purposes. So um, not all of us have the same level of ability in the same area, or are really meant to do the exact same thing. Whereas the law of attraction and how it's taught kind of assumes that anybody can attract anything that they want at any time. And what I observed with a lot of the students who were in the classes, that when I was studying this way back when, was that some of us would achieve just amazing results in some areas, and some of us would achieve no results at all, and some of us would go completely backwards in certain areas. So it wasn't consistent. And so what I'm wondering is what your perception on law of attraction is. First of all, do you believe that anybody can attract anything at any time, or do you think that there is a certain written life journey that we are each meant to have here, that we really can't alter, and no amount of law of attraction is going to change that, because we chose that, we made that free will choice before we came here? And secondly, with reference to parallel realities, let's say the law of attraction does in fact work, and when you when you are trying to manifest something that really is not meant for you in this reality, could it be manifesting in an alternate reality that spins off as a result of that intention?
Well, I would say that with the law of attraction, you have to look at it through, you know, if you're harboring and carrying around in your energy system, in your body, which is pretty much a computer, and you're harboring these things, these fears and these judgment and all this stuff that you're reflecting into the field, you're going to have worse luck manifesting something, of law of attraction, because, if you're trying to attract this one thing, but you're resonating the complete opposite, and you have more of a resonation with that in your unconscious, because, let's face it, most of our stuff is unconsciously getting put into the field. Well, then you're going to probably have that come through rather than the thing you're putting intention on or mentally in your conscious mind for the 5% trying to manifest. So in that sense, you might find out why you guys had all those different outcomes with everyone using the same cool tools, is because you still had underlying things that were getting in the way, because you weren't ultimately based in love. When you start to completely balance, you're going to be able to manifest things quicker, and you can attract things. But I do, I don't know. And in my true heart, I do believe that you do have some themes. And I think that you can get in contract with certain things, and that you run a certain theme. And people can be certain catalysts for other people in certain instances. You know what I mean? I think I use an example of someone having like a drug addict in their family, or someone that's really addicted to a drug or anything. And, they have the intervention, and it's a dynamic for the whole family. And that person, possibly they OD and they die. Okay. And everyone says, oh, their life was a waste and all that. But was it really, when you look at everyone that was affected and how everyone maybe learned something that they needed to learn from that experience? So, for people to say, oh, his life or her life was a waste for that, I would say, no, they were a catalyst in everyone else's life, and that was their theme. So I think that people have things. I think as far as limitations, I think you can exceed anything that someone else has put on you, or a limitation. So to say that you have to be pigeonholed, I think you could break free from it and excel through past it. But I think that people do give themselves contracted themes in these lives, to work through, and to work through, soul family themes. And people are like, keep reincarnating to work through different things with each other. So, I mean, I think it gets pretty deep, you know what I'm saying? But as far as manifesting things into the field, you got to make sure that your stuff is clear. You got to make sure that you're right before you start messing with all that kind of stuff, because you can end up manifesting something you don't want to manifest. And, and most people are in their lives, they're walking around in this unconscious state, manifesting judgment, fear, hostility into their lives, and have no idea why, when 2 seconds out of the day they're wishing that they had more money in their bank account. When you got to understand that if you're trying to manifest something, I mean, I'll give you this will be a little taste of something. The real trick is to let go of it. So, cancel your goal. So you shouldn't have any goals. If you have a goal, you have resistance to that as a goal. So if you want to manifest something, let's say I want $1 million in my bank account tomorrow. Well, then I need to cancel that goal to have the $1 million, because it's never going to come.
So now I prior to 4 years ago, I grew up in a more conventional, I always had a spiritual mindset, but I lived a more conventional life. I ran a business, and I was even trading and teaching professional traders in the stock market, and my life completely changed. But for the majority of my life, I was the kind of guy who set goals and worked toward achieving them and so on. And I was always perplexed by why sometimes I would do great and other times I wouldn't. So are you saying that the whole idea of setting goals is really more of an egoic construct?
Yeah, I mean, the idea of setting goals is so like this reality. It's just a way to keep you, it's like motivation and goals. I mean, those are really, the paradox is you have to give up your goals. You have to like release that, because whatever you're holding on to, a perfect thing I can give you, a perfect example is that you have two people that want to have a baby, and so they spend all this money and they do all this stuff to have the baby, and they just can't do it. So they give up, right? They finally say, It's not going to happen. So they give up on their goal and they adapt. They adapt this nice little baby from another country or wherever. And then what happens 3 months later? She gets pregnant. I mean, I've seen it firsthand. So, I mean, it can happen. I mean, a lot of people can relate to that story and say, oh, I have a family member, I had a cousin, or I have a friend that, oh, she got pregnant after they adopted. And that's because they gave up on the goal. They released it. And so that's really the paradox of the place we live. We live in this polarity realm. And if you look at where we live at and the mechanics of how this operates, you can start to see these hidden cycles and these hidden quirks in this machine that we're in, and how to navigate in it and realize that, you know, we're kind of trapped into this little thing. So once we give up the goal, once we allow it and release it, it manifests.
So I think what you're referring to is really attachment to a thing, because obviously we all strive to do certain things, such as if you want to have a baby, we try to have a baby. Without taking the action to do the thing, you're not going to actually do it.
Yeah.
But you're basically saying the idea of having a goal is really having an attachment to a particular outcome and not being willing or able to let go of that attachment to it, which is what gets in the way.
Yes.
Okay. Now, I have a question about relationships. You said you had a girlfriend when you had this whole awakening experience, and I'm curious, do you think that having a relationship with someone, meaning a single person, is in any way helpful or enhances your ability to develop yourself? Because a lot of times the conventional belief in a lot of spiritual development is that we have all that we need within ourselves, and we should be able to develop within ourselves. But at the same time, everybody is running around looking for their soulmate. So, so I'm kind of curious whether you think that, and I've studied the psychology as well, relationship psychology, and I found that from a psychological standpoint, it seems pretty clear that people just can't function at their best unless they have a very secure and positive relationship in their life, a loving relationship. What do you think about that in terms of the development of your ability, your abilities, and being the best version of yourself?
Yeah, I would think that I would say that you don't have to. I mean, I think that it definitely had something to do with I don't know, the energy was really good between us. I think it had something, I had to help with it, when I think about it. And, the divine kind of intimate, the sexual energy that was going on with us, and everything that was kind of happening. I think that helped with everything. Do you need that? No, you don't need that to move forward. You know what I mean? I mean, there was a point in the summer where I kind of took a break from, even having sex. So because withstanding from that can actually be good for energy. You know what I mean? But as far as like having it or not having it, you know what I mean? I think it's really however you are. I think you should have loving relationships in your life. Like you said, that loving relationship helps a lot. But you can do it on your own. I mean, it is all within inside of us. Yeah, does it help if you have a partner or if you have someone that's kind of on the journey with you or on their journey, next to you together? I think it does. But do you need to have it? Or I would say that people are always seeking and looking. I would say, try to work on yourself before you start getting into an entanglement with someone else. You know what I mean? And be cautious because, you're running around, having sex with all these people and not working on yourself, and you're actually doing more harm than you are doing good. Because, every time you have sex with somebody, you're actually overlapping all of their junk into your space. You know what I mean? You're merging yourself with them when you have intercourse, and so that you're picking up all their junk, all their neurology junk that's going into your brain. It's all overlapping. That's why you notice those people that have sex with everybody, they're a little crazy and they're a little moody and all over the place, is because they've got all those other people's junk that they're riding. So, I would say that people, if you're out seeking and searching and dating and you just can't figure it out, slow down and work on yourself for a little bit. And I would always say that the best relationships come when you're not looking. So, when you can stop looking for someone else to fill the void. The problem with the relationship is that we're always looking for it to fill the void. And we need to learn to fill that void ourselves. And once we fill that void ourselves, then we can accept someone else to come in and complement us instead of someone we just feed off of. Because a lot of times in a relationship, it's more of an energy vamping going on, where I'm taking their energy and you don't really know it, but you are. You know what I mean? You're just absorption. You're just that negative. You're just trying to get something from them or have them help fill a void in your life. So I would say with relationships, it's really got to start on the right track. It's not going to help you in your spiritual walk if you're trying to get something from them or if you're trying to get them to fill a void in your life. You need to be more well-rounded and balanced before you start to get into a relationship to have a better result, to have a better outcome come forward. But as far as spirituality and having a partner in spirituality, I think it is a blessing, and I think it does help out that energy, that divine, intimate energy. There's an energy there that is helpful in spirituality. So
I'd like to clarify something you said about the exchange of sexual energy between partners. Now, do you believe that what's happening is that if you're taking on somebody else's energy and their issues and so on, are you processing that for them and they no longer have it, or do they still carry it, now you have it as well, and is it something
yeah,
that's permanent?
they have it and you've got it as well, and it's permanent, and it happens to everybody. And I mean, there's ways you can clear it. In meditation, you can get rid of it and get back to your authentic self. But when you really look at it and you talk with people about it, it's evident that people are picking up stuff. And it's not like you're picking up their stuff and like you are now processing. You're just picking up their stuff because you've merged your consciousness. So just like if you get into someone's field with your aura, you're going to pick up debris possibly from another person, or if you're empathic, you're going to pick up a feeling or a sense. It's the same thing. You're going to have an overlap in your mind of all that data, and so all that data is unconscious data, and them is going to get overlapped in you, and it's subtle, but over time, and the more partners you have, it can get built up. And I mean, you can notice this. Just do some research on someone or a friend that you know of, and you can see how I guess how much stuff they have from how many partners they had, whether they were with a ton of people or not. So you can definitely pick up stuff. I mean, you can see it.
Now, you're doing a class called Self-Mastery, Understanding Your Energy Signature Through Psychokinesis and Telekinesis at our upcoming Expo this April. Can you talk a little about what the participants in the class can expect to learn and take away from there?
Well, we're going to be talking about a lot of exciting things. How you can connect with energy, how to activate your energy system, what this reality really is, how you can connect into the grid system, how you can charge up your energy system from the environment all around you. I'm going to talk about go in depth on the whole idea of your system harboring all this unconscious data and what that really means and how to clear that stuff and release that stuff out of there. I am going to talk about certain techniques with all the psychokinesis. I'm going to be doing a demonstration as well. And then we also are going to want to be doing an outdoor demonstration. Now, we're not too sure how this is going to work as of right now, whether we'll have to have a sign-up sheet or something where people can go out with us. but we want to do some outdoor stuff so people can really see the connection for themselves and also connect in with us. So it should be a super exciting time with lots of information, and we'll really get into depth on the teachings of the school and how it applies to the energy and how you can really develop these things to work in your everyday life and to really build up your energy signature to where you can own your own energy and you stop, giving it away to everything else.
Yeah, there's a nice little courtyard at the hotel, although I don't know if, depending on the weather, if it'll be open or not, but we can certainly look into that if you wanted to do that.
Yeah, I think it would be great to do something because it's just so much more, people enjoy that when they get outside or get with us, and whether we just take out little groups, I think it would be really good for people to see that in person and to kind of feel the energy of that, because there's something that changes with the whole matrix, and when you're out with us, and you can see our videos online and check out our YouTubes, and I make new videos about every couple weeks, and we actually have a great new video that one of our students just posted, an amazing vortex tornado video that is it's a beautiful site. So people could go on Self Mastery on Facebook or on my Facebook page and check out that video. But I think going outside, it's a lot more intense. You really get the feeling of the energy.
So where can our listeners get in touch with you and get involved with your work and also the school?
Well, they can reach me on Facebook on at Ken Chorley, and that's Chorley. And my YouTube is the same, Ken Chorley. So you can hit me up on both of those. I have demonstrations. Start doing free videos, some instruction videos. You can also get a hold of us at evolvedministry.com, www.evolvedministry.com. And there's a lot of good information. You can get on there and see the different levels of memberships. So what you'd like to sign up for. We go through the testimonials, look at the mission statement, and then I would just say go on the YouTube channels. You can check out Michael Grubb's YouTube channel. And if you look at my Facebook, you can kind of go through my friends and then see Michael, you have Kyle, and you have Daniel. So those are some of the people you can check out, and feel free to contact me on Facebook. I'm easy to contact, or hit me up on YouTube. Also, I'm doing some programs on CCN Network. So I'm doing some radio shows on Sunday nights at 8 o'clock for Bridge to Paradise. And we do some question and answers. We talk about consciousness, things that are going on. And we also talk about, my friend wrote a book, 21st Century Superhuman. And so we go over her book, which talks about these new shifts that are going on and how we can clear this unconscious data, and we can kind of move into these new forms of living and these new avenues of life that, have been dormant. So that's an exciting new avenue, and I would, strongly say everyone can join us there and tap into all the conversation.
Great. Well, thank you very much for taking time to speak with me today, and I'm looking forward to meeting you in person at our upcoming expo, and hopefully we can get you out to do a class for our youth program as well at some time in the future.
Yeah, I would love to get out there in the spring and get with the kids, because I think it's real important to get kids into this and to start getting them from the whole deprogramming and realizing the connection to the environment and nature, and that this energy is all around and easily accessible. And so, getting families to work with their kids with energy is just beautiful. We have students that have got their kids out there doing energy, as well as the parents. And it's just a beautiful sight. So super excited, and looking forward to this spring, and hopefully we'll see all of you there. Lots of great speakers. So super excited.
Thank you very much.